We get tired, Paul, we get tired of the iPads. Huh? Oh, don't worry about it. I'm the only one that uses it. All the stuff going on.
I'll go get him.
Good evening. Welcome to the March 27th meeting of the Board of Selectmen. And would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I just want to notify everybody that this is being telecast live by Chelmsford Telemedia, and I'd ask if anybody else in the room is son. Anybody else telecasting? Thank you. Okay, I'll call moderator Mr. Curlin for the joint meeting with the school committee and the town moderator to appoint to the Neshoba Valley Technical High School Committee for a 3-year term ending 3/31/2020.
Thank you, Mr. the Chairman, members of the Board of Selectmen, Mr. Manager, members of the school committee. I call to order this joint meeting of the Board of Selectmen and the school committee. For the record, I will note that there is a quorum. All the members of both the school committee and the Board of Selectmen are here. So I'd like to take nominations, if anyone has any candidates they wish to nominate. Of course, if you don't, it's going to be a long meeting.
Can we, before we do that, Mr. Chairman, can we listen to them?
Well,
Well, we don't know who they are yet, so we have to wait until they're nominated.
Oh, okay, all right.
Okay?
That's fine.
Barbara?
I'd like to nominate Mr. Lawrence McDonald.
Okay, Lawrence McDonald. Okay, thank you. Do we have any more nominations?
John, can I nominate?
Mr.
I'd like
Lupoli?
to nominate Sam Polton.
Mr. Polton, do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, just for the record, I have filed a disclosure statement with the town clerk. I have represented a member of one of the candidates in the past, and I've also represented the other candidate in the past, so I will recuse myself from voting, but I don't think that impairs my ability to conduct this meeting. If there are no other nominations, I will close the nominations. There being none, I will invite the nominees to make a presentation, no longer than 5 minutes, for them to introduce themselves and answer questions. And since Mr. McDonald was the first one nominated, I will ask him to come first.
Thank you all. I'm Lawrence McDonald, and I met some of you the other night at the school committee meeting. I appreciate you considering me for the position of Chelmsford representative to the Neshoba Tech School Committee. It would be a great honor to represent Chelmsford at Neshoba Tech. I've lived in Chelmsford for 17 years. I have 4 children. I've been a scout leader for 10 and a half years, a soccer coach, basketball coach. Many of you know me, some of you don't. I went to a technical high school, so I understand the importance of these institutions, and I think Neshoba Tech does a great job. I work in the high-tech industry, in industry. I think that I have a very good working relationship with the administration over at Neshoba Tech, the superintendent, the principal. I'm on a first-name basis with both. I think that my goals as a member of the board of Neshoba Tech would be to create a more open relationship between the board, and actually the whole Neshoba and the town of Chelmsford. I would like to, among other things, see their meetings broadcast the way that these meetings are broadcast. I would like to see their minutes and their agenda items be more publicly available and more fully fleshed out. I think that that would give the voters more confidence in what is going on at Neshoba, which, as I say, I think is doing good stuff. I am, in my position, my job, I'm a process guru, so I think I would like to spend some time working on process and budget with Neshoba. In particular, I'd like to try to establish what I call a risk register for the stabilization fund so that we can fully understand the risks that the stabilization fund is designed to mitigate. And that is the sort of document that you would want to update regularly. These are the sorts of things, the sorts of strengths I can bring to the table. I have a daughter who attends Neshoba. One of my sons just graduated from Neshoba, so I have, a history not only with the administration, but with the teachers, with the faculty, with the staff. I'm there quite often. So I think it would be a great honor to be Chelmsford's representative there, and would be available to both boards here to answer questions at any time.
Thank you.
Are there any questions?
Were you able to sit in or watch the recent presentation by Neshoba to the Finance Committee this year?
I have not seen that.
Did you see it last year?
I have.
This year's was similar to last year's. It's very defensive on the part of, I think, Neshoba, that I think the finance team doesn't feel that they came with enough transparency and documentation to make good decisions.
I hear that a lot. I really do.
What qualities do you think you can bring to the table so that next year we don't see a repeat of past years?
I don't know how to say this, but I have a reputation of being really annoying in that I keep asking questions until I generally get the answers I need. And I think that as a member of the school committee at Neshoba, I would seek to keep asking the questions that the voters of Chelmsford are going to ask, because I don't think it has to be that contentious relationship, because the research I have done shows Neshoba is actually a good value for money compared to other technical high schools within the state. It's within the top 10% of value for money per student. But I think the public perception, and I hear this a lot, is why are they so defensive? Why don't we know more about what's going on? And as a person who's not a member there, I don't know. So in answer to your question, I think that I would continue to ask those questions before they present to our finance committee, and if need be, would stand in the way of them presenting until they were willing to do that.
Thank you.
Bob?
I'm curious, what drives a person to throw their hat in the ring? What was the reason you decided you wanted to do this?
I'm sure you've been asked the same question in your position. Well, my wife and I have actually talked about this one for many years. This is the only, for lack of a better term, political position in town I've ever been interested in, because of the breadth of my experience, being both a tech school grad and then a graduate from UMass Lowell, and being in so many different industries and understanding the value of a technical high school education, which is not always appreciated. Mm-hmm. I think that my blend of experience is what's motivated me. And I really do like Neshoba, and I wouldn't have let two of my children attend Neshoba if I didn't think it was a worthwhile institution. So I live near Neshoba, I work near Neshoba. In the past, when I talked about doing this, I was running Pack 107 here in town, which is a huge Cub Scout pack, and I was coaching soccer at the same time. But my kids have grown past those things, so I don't have those pulls on my time now. So I do have some time to do some volunteer work, and this is what I would really love to do.
I don't know if you know it or not, but I sat 10 years on on that committee.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Mike?
Lawrence, thank you very
The,
much.
I'm sorry,
Oh, you have a
just one more. In addition to televising the meetings and making the minutes available online, will you commit to making the packets available online as both the school committee and the Board of Selectmen do?
I will, and if necessary, I will publish them myself on Chelmsford News if I have to. I would like to make it, if you look at the processes for Neshoba Tech, their own processes say that their committee invites the media freely and openly. So I'm hopeful that this won't be a struggle.
Thank you.
I'm a little surprised that they're not already televised. We've had this discussion with numerous candidates in front of these boards, and I'm a little surprised it's not, so I'm glad that you're making it a goal.
It is my number one goal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know the answer to that, because it was brought up while I was on the board too. And it's that there's friction between their version of the local town TV station and themselves. It started many years ago. At one point, they were actually sharing space in the Neshoba, and then something happened, and they moved out and rented space. So that's how far it goes back. And unlike our telecommunication group, I don't know if they have as many volunteers. And they were talking about asking the coordinator at the school to be the lead, and of course, that comes with money. They want money to do it, so.
But they do have, Mr. Joyce, they do have their own capability, and I think not only should they shouldn't just make it available to Chelmsford, but to all of the sending communities.
They can't get it onto the station, though. That's what happened back then. You can tape all you want, but if you don't have a connection to the townwide net, or whatever you want to call it, then it doesn't go on.
I believe they're now a part of town government, right?
And I do have,
Chelmsford Television? Or
Yeah.
Chelmsford TV?
I don't,
Talk about other
So we
towns.
wouldn't have any trouble getting that on here.
I don't know about Westford, though, if they had the same thing.
I do know people in the Westford town government that I'd be more than willing to call up and go see.
Okay.
I know City Life, Evelyn delivers a copy to the
Yeah, I know.
telemedia. I mean, if necessary,
Yeah.
we may have to ask you to do that.
And you have a new superintendent over there. I think she's very good, and perhaps she could put to bed some of these
Yeah.
Right.
long-standing disputes.
She is, in my estimation, she's very good. I've worked with her for a long time on different things.
How long have you worked with them?
Well, it's mostly through, issues with my kids or the teams or whatever. We're in our 6th year of having a student at Neshoba Tech, and I've known her since before day one, when we went to evaluate it for our middle son. And so, we do have a good working relationship. And I do have a good working relationship with Matt Ricard, the principal. Thank you all very much for considering me.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. And Mr. Polton? Since Mr. McDonald took more than 5 minutes, if there are more questions that people have of you, obviously, we will extend you the same courtesy.
Thank you. Good evening. I apologize for the condition of my voice. I'm seldom not willing to speak for long periods of time, but tonight I am having a problem, and I ask your indulgence. First, I'd like to thank you all very much for giving me the opportunity to come before you, not only to explain my candidacy, but more importantly, to answer any questions, concerns, or need to know that you may have about either me or Neshoba Vocational Technical High School. We can all together be very, very proud of Chelmsford's other high school. And I know that at least one of you feels that way, same way I do, because I've heard it. I truly feel that that's what Neshoba Tech is. And the reason we are is because of the very special cooperation we have between Neshoba and the town of Chelmsford. I do hear the same things that you hear, and I've been going before the Chelmsford Finance Committee for over 30 years, and the questions remain the same. Our answers get better as we go along. But there is some friction, but each and every time, the Finance Committee has ultimately voted to recommend our budget. And that is very heartening. Unlike some other towns, we have a full, open cooperation, if you will, between at least the Board of Selectmen and the committee, in that over the years there have been many excellent liaisons. This year it's Selectwoman Merrill, who is at our meetings, and I hope that you're watching my performance at those meetings has given you the confidence to support me tonight. I think it would be excellent if we had a school committee liaison coming to the meeting. I think that that's something that I would certainly make a priority after hearing the concerns that were raised tonight. We, of course, are available to come before any board at any time to answer any questions, as we do before the Finance Committee. Before I run out of time, and hopefully take your questions, I'd like to just give you a little insight as to why I want to continue to serve. I have a unique skill set, having been both a classroom teacher for over 37 years and a 9-year veteran of the Chelmsford School Committee. So I know what it's like to serve on a town school committee, and I also know the challenges that education presents and continues to present to not only our staff and our administration, but to the students that we're there to serve. I'm not sure that I could step back into the classroom of today without a whole lot of boning up on what's occurred since 2008. But again, we've accomplished something together that is unique in the Commonwealth. Neshoba ranks last in per pupil expenditure of all the regional vocational high schools, yet we rank in the top 5 for results. That is remarkable. And it's not remarkable because of anything that I do. It's remarkable because of a very special team that's been built. What a terrible thing. Excuse me, and I should have turned it off. We were blessed at having an excellent superintendent for more than 20 years, and then being able to replace her with another excellent superintendent so that the transition was seamless. And that was accomplished because of the team that was put together over the years. We promoted from within after going outside for candidates. Again, a very remarkable, unique, and wonderful situation at Neshoba. I'm very gratified to see members of the Neshoba Committee and administration who have come in support of my candidacy. Our chair is here. Another one of our Chelmsford reps, Maria Carafellis, is here. Our vocational ed coordinator and our IT director are all here not only to support me, but to listen to the questions that you have, hoping to learn from the experience. But once again, I'm excited about remaining in education after retiring from the classroom so that I can keep a hand in educating our most important resource, our children. Those are our future citizens. They're who's going to be taking care of us. And as our own motto says, let the children guard what the sires have won. That's why I want to be at Neshoba. I want to make sure that Chelmsford's other high school is in harmony with one of the best high schools and school systems in Massachusetts, so that all around, we can all be proud not only of Neshoba Tech, but more importantly, of the students who we graduate and who I know will go on and continuously make us proud that they're from Chelmsford. So it's an exciting place to be. I enjoy every school committee meeting, which, by the way, our meetings are now down to under an hour, again, because of the teamwork that we put together. Most of our work is done on subcommittees. And last thing about myself, besides having been in the classroom and on a school committee, I've been a small businessman for over 30 years. I'm a part owner of two moderate-sized companies, one in real estate, one in broadcasting. And I also know what it is to meet a payroll, to worry about healthcare, and all the things that go into not only putting together a budget, but balancing the needs of our students with the needs of the folks who pay the bills. It's a tough job, but a very rewarding job. I hope that you feel that I've been doing it well. And I did hear a concern about televising, and I appreciate what Mr. Joyce said. We were colleagues at one time on the committee, but things have gotten better with Westford, Mr. Joyce. The problem is this: we have 7 sending communities. They are not all served by the same cable company. In order for us to send our meetings to one, we must send our meetings to all. We have been trying, and our minutes will reflect the fact that I often make the motion, because for the last 3 Finance Committee meetings, the Finance Committee has asked us to do something. So I can assure you that I, too, will continue to make it a priority. Being in broadcasting myself, I know how it can be done. We do have students who can do it. We do have the equipment to do it. The problem is getting it transmitted. We'd have no trouble sending it to Chelmsford Telemedia, but then we would have a problem with Townsend or, the other towns. So I'm glad to work with you. As I said, I think I have a unique skill set, and when things get tough there, I at least feel that at least they're not shooting at me, because I've had a lot of experience as an administrator under fire as well, being an Army veteran. At this point, I hope you have a lot of questions, because that'll show that you're interested in me, which I hope you are.
Go on.
Well, no need to ask you if you've sat through the finance meetings. I know you used to be a strapping 6-footer before you started all that. I really only have one question, and it dates to your experience in having done this for a long time. I've been led to believe there was a time when the Chelmsford school system set aside some time for people from Neshoba to present, to allow them to recruit or explain the program to their students, and that went away. And I just want to know your take on why it went away and your feelings toward the whole thing.
I'm glad you asked that, Mr. Diggs. And it did go away, but through everybody's good efforts, it's back. And we do make our presentations. And just to expand a little bit on that, I have never felt that Neshoba is in competition with our sending high schools. And in fact, last Tuesday, I had the privilege of testifying before 15 state senators, and I specifically raised 2 issues. That perceived competition being one of them, and I asked, can something be done about Chapter 70 so that we can even out the way regional schools make their assessments? And I explained our unique position in Chelmsford being one of 7 sending communities, but sending the bulk of the students. And the other thing I asked them to help us with was regional transportation. And I not only got some affirmative nods from the state Senate, with the exception of a concern about immigration that seems to be floating around in the Commonwealth and was the topic of more than half a dozen other testifiers. Our vocational ed mission got the largest applause because people realize we can be seamless from Neshoba Tech to Middlesex Community College to UMass Lowell. In fact, last year, for the first time, we had a Neshoba high school student get her degree from Middlesex before she graduated from Neshoba Tech. Fantastic thing. So thank you for that question. Things are much better.
Any other questions? Barbara?
I noted our school committee meetings, you know, they're filmed by Chelmsford Telemedia, but they're posted on YouTube. Can you use that avenue? Because every town gets that.
You know, as I said, the administration is here listening.
Yeah.
I can say, certainly, if I maintain your trust and confidence, and I'm allowed to serve for another 3 years, I will certainly know the reason why something like that can't be done, and will certainly do it. Our meetings are open, and we're very proud of what we do, so the more people can see it, the better.
Mike?
Can you tell us a little bit about the projects that the kids at Neshoba have done for the town of Chelmsford recently?
Recently, okay, the most recent project was at the senior center, as I think everybody sees at town meeting. Just a great addition. The facade to the desks here was Neshoba Tech. We try to give Chelmsford more than its fair share. Every year, the Chelmsford Veterans Park benefits by one of our clubs. Our horticultural courses went out of existence, but the horticultural club continues to do the Chelmsford Veterans Park. Every year, the manager is notified that there are opportunities in plumbing, HVAC, carpentry. If we've got a shop and you've got a project, we're ready to try to do it. So, yeah, I'm proud of all the things that we've done. Thanks for asking about that, and we'll continue to do it.
I'll ask you the same question I asked Mr. McDonald. Will you commit to making the packets available online as we do?
Absolutely. I'm unaware that people are having trouble. I mean, until right now,
I have to say, one of my frustrations is, as you said, you know, if you look at the minutes, we can see that you're making these motions. We can't look at the minutes. There hasn't been a minute posted since last June. That's 9 months of minutes, and I can look at the agendas and see that there are agenda items to approve previous meeting minutes, but they're not going up. So we are very much in the dark about what happens at these meetings. I agree with you, they are public meetings, and I don't think anybody's trying to hide things, but the effect has been one of it's just hard to find out what's going on.
my job is to do what the Chelmsford School Committee, the Chelmsford Board of Selectmen, Chelmsford wants to be done in keeping with our mission to educate the students. So certainly, if I'm reappointed tonight, I have 2 things that will be done before I leave the building. And one is, let's get going on TV. The chair is here. And the second would be, let's make sure the Chelmsford School Committee and everybody else has the packets. I'm proud of all of our motions, and I want to get the credit for it.
Yeah, I think there is no question in my mind that Neshoba Tech is doing an excellent job educating our kids. As you say, I'm not even sure I'd say it's our other high school. I'd say it's one of our high schools.
Thank you.
I think they do an excellent job. For me personally, and this may not be a view that's shared by everyone at this table, I'd like to see you be, say, the 3rd lowest cost of the of the technical schools in the state.
Amen.
I'd like to see a little bit more. And actually, that's my last question. How are you doing on net school spending? There was a problem a couple of years ago, and as you know, that carries over Are you back in the pocket there?
Thank you. Another great question, and I think it also speaks to the complexity of serving on a regional school committee. I learned something literally every meeting, but again, because of the team that we've put together, we found that in trying to stick to minimum, which is our goal every time we put together our budget, let's come in and go for minimum plus our capital spending. We found that we were not meeting net school spending because of categories, not because of the amount we were spending. So we worked very hard. There were some workshops, a lot of interaction with the Department of Ed, and I'm proud to say that this year, yes, we have met net school spending. Not only that, our audit came back with no suggestions for improvements and a comment that it was among the best put together budgets meeting all the marks that had been seen. So I think that the Neshoba team made lemonade out of those lemons, and another reason I'm anxious to stay.
Any other questions? Hey, John.
Thank you,
Sam.
Mr. Colton.
Thank you, Mr. Curlin.
Okay, so we will now vote on the candidates. We will poll, starting with the school committee. Mr. Rigney?
I'll preface my vote by saying that I have no lack of admiration for Sam Polton. He has done an outstanding job serving the town and the country for as long as I've known him. He's been doing this longer than I have. But tonight, I have a chance to make a change at Neshoba. And this is not driven by his past performance, but I am concerned about the communication from Neshoba Tech. And I heard one candidate make that his central theme, Mr. McDonald. My vote is for Mr. McDonald.
Thank you. Ms. Gar?
My vote also is for Mr. McDonald.
Mr. Lupoli?
My vote is for Sam Polton.
Mr. Moses? I always do the chairman last.
My vote is for Sam Polton.
Mr. Thomas?
Thanks for saving me till last.
Well, you're not the,
No, I was
you're not
just-
the last
I was
last.
just kidding. I'd just like to comment first, because I've communicated with Mr. McDonald a number of times. I'm going to support Mr. Polton, but I would encourage Neshoba to find as many different committees and so forth to involve Mr. McDonald as he can, because I think he's a great candidate. It's just that I feel Mr. Polton's experience is key.
Selectman Diggs?
Mr. McDonald.
Selectman Wojcik?
Well, I'll preface my vote also with some comments. I appreciate the time and effort that Mr. Polton has put in, but looking even at his application, it's apparent that he has a lot more going on, and sometimes I think things can be put a little bit below as far as priorities, not that he doesn't give a lot to Neshoba. I hope he does stay involved if he doesn't get the vote, but my vote is for Mr. McDonald.
Thank you. Selectman Joyce?
I will cast my vote for Mr. Polton.
Selectman Merrill?
I agree with everything that has been said this evening, and I will be voting for Mr. McDonald.
Mr. Dixon? and
Yes? Say something, will you, please?
Is that your vote, yes?
the vote right now is 5-4. I cannot be the tiebreaker in this election. No pressure, though.
I'm voting for Mr. Polton.
So we have a 5-5 tie, and we're going to have to revote. Mr. Rigney?
Nothing has changed in the last minute and a half. I will stick with Mr. McDonald.
Ms. Scar?
Mr. McDonald again.
Mr. Lapoli?
Mr. Polton.
Mr. Polton.
Mr. Polton.
Mr. Diggs?
I'm going to stay with Mr. McDonald, but I do understand the feelings for Sam. I think he has done a wonderful job, but I think there is a new time coming. We've had a new change at the Chelmsford Public Schools, and I think a new change with our liaison with Neshoba is in order.
Thank you. Selectman Wojcik?
My vote has not changed either, Mr. McDonald.
Mr. Joyce? Selectman?
I fully appreciate what Mr. Polton has done. I've served with him. And one of the reasons I asked what his motive was to see, exactly what he was looking for. So I'm going to go with the other guy.
Mr. McDonald?
Mr. McDonald.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald.
Mr. Moderator, may I? After 32 years on the committee, I see that the town wants a change. And rather than be in a tie or voted out, I understand that I serve the town, and I'm very happy to let the town go in a new direction. I sincerely disagree that now is the time for change. I stressed in what I was saying, the team that we have at Neshoba Tech. And I think change is good sometimes. Hopefully, the committee and the school committee will get what they wish. I don't want to stand in the way. So I'll withdraw my name from further consideration and congratulate Mr. McDonald.
Mr. Polton, a most gracious move, and thank you for your numerous and countless years of service.
And I hope
We all
I'll be
appreciate
allowed
it.
to retire. My wife will be very happy. I am retiring from the Neshoba School Committee.
So, in light of this development, I'd like to congratulate Mr. McDonald as the new Neshoba Tech School representative from the town of Chelmsford. I will entertain a motion to adjourn this joint meeting.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
I also would like to thank Mr. Polton for his many years of service, and I think it was a very gracious move he made, and thank you, Sam.
Yeah. Follow we next, or?
Coming right up after public comments.
Should we stay?
So
Yeah, you're welcome to sit, you're welcome to stay.
I'd like to stay for that.
Thank you for your support. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your support.
We have a meeting.
So we get waiting for.
Sorry, Sam.
I get public service announcements.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, next we have public service announcements.
Scholarship fund.
Okay, I have a proclamation, Mr. Chairman.
For the scholarship fund proclamation?
Yep.
Thank you.
If I could read that. Whereas the Town of Chelmsford Scholarship Fund was founded on April 8, 1957, and will celebrate its 60th anniversary in April, and has been awarding scholarships continually since 1957, totaling over $1,500,000. The fund obtains its income from voluntary contributions from individuals, organizations, and businesses, and does not obtain any funds from tax revenues. And whereas the fund exists to provide financial assistance in the form of scholarships to Chelmsford residents who have completed secondary school and wish to continue their undergraduate education, the fund awards scholarships based on need, scholastic achievement, college acceptance, and qualities of character. And whereas citizens may assist the annual fund appeal by mailing contributions to the treasurer, P.O. Box 296, Chelmsford, Mass. 01824, with checks made payable to the Town of Chelmsford Scholarship Fund Incorporated, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Memorial contributions in honor of special occasions may also be made. And whereas the fund has awarded over $1,518,270 to students, including awards given out last year, 2016, totaling over $55,000. This year will mark the fund's 60th anniversary. Therefore, this body proclaims the month of March 2017 as Town of Chelmsford Scholarship Month and calls upon its citizens to support and encourage the officers and directors of this organization in their annual fund drive.
Mr. Dolan, would you like to say a few words and then before?
First of all, thank you so much for the proclamation and for the support from the town, the very generous citizens that support the scholarship every year. As you mentioned, the number of students that benefit from it year to year. Thank you.
Have a proclamation. Congratulations, Jimmy. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have the, this is open session, or is this?
Yeah, next is open session.
Okay. Anybody like, this is open session. Anybody like to speak under open session? Come up to the mic, please. State your name and residence.
Mr. Lefebvre, could you please remove your button?
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
I'm Ken Lefebvre, 3 Moonbeam Ave, Chelmsford. I just wanted to address the board tonight. Normally, it's my understanding you have a candidate tonight, and it wasn't done.
We haven't for a couple of years.
By invitation.
But
I was hoping just for maybe 30 seconds to just introduce myself. I know a lot of people watch the show, and I feel that...
okay, Mr. Joyce has no problem. I don't think anybody else has a problem.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank
I
you.
do, but it's your meeting.
Thank you.
So I just want to thank you again. I'm running for the open seat that's coming up for the Selectmen. I've lived in town for about 25 years now. I've raised 4 kids through the school system. Just wanted to decided this year with my youngest heading off to high school that it was time for me to give back some service to the community. Decided to run for the seat that's coming up. I would like to ask everybody for their vote, if possible, on April 4th. I think if you get a chance to watch any of the debates or listen to any of the shows that I've had on, you get a good feeling of where I stand on the issues. I am probably what I would consider fiscally conservative, and have 2 goals that I want to set out. First is to help increase the commercial tax base in the town, and secondly, to address the rising property tax issues that we're all facing. So with that, I just, again, want to respectfully ask for your vote on April 4th.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bob, you want to go up now and give a few words, or do you want to wait till a little after?
Can I do it at the end?
You can do it at the end. That's what I
I'll do it at the
said.
end.
Okay. Anybody else like to speak under open session? Okay. Committee vacancies, please.
Okay. As of today, we have the following committee vacancies. There's 1 vacancy on the Civic Committee, several vacancies on the Cultural Council, 3 vacancies on the Energy Conservation Committee, and 1 vacancy on the Tree Committee. If you're interested in serving on any of these committees, you can find out more about them on the town's website, and you can fill out an application there or at the town manager's office. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we have a vote on the submission of a statement of interest to the Massachusetts School Building Authority.
Do you want Jay?
Yeah, probably get you, yeah. Superintendent was just stepping out of the room for a moment.
I think Mr. Bolton wanted to speak.
Statement of interest. Oh, sorry.
Let me grab my book.
Where are you as far as?
Right at the beginning of the
Right at the beginning? Okay. If you like, I can send a little context for you. A few weeks back, the Chelmsford School Committee voted to, we've been working with Doran Whittier, has been the architectural engineering firm with us on this project for a long time. So we voted to actually have them prepare a statement of interest to be submitted to the MSBA by their April 7th deadline. The school committee some weeks back selected the high school option as the option to explore with the SBA. So we directed Doran Whittier to put together a statement of interest for that particular grade level and for that particular school. So before you tonight, I believe you have two documents. One is a copy of the required vote that the MSBA mandates. It's very specific language from the SBA that both the school committee and the Board of Selectmen need to take verbatim with the wording that's in there to allow me to submit the statement of interest by that April 7th deadline. The school committee met at 6:30 this evening to formally take that vote, and the school committee unanimously supported the application. The second packet that we provided earlier today is a draft of the statement of interest itself. This is the actual application that will go into the state. And as I indicated with the school committee, it will still undergo one kind of final edit check this week. There were a couple of dates that we want to check on, and ultimately that would be approved this evening if the Board of Selectmen approves it, and submitted by the Friday, April 7th deadline. So we still have 2 weeks to put any finishing touches on that. We have a series of other forms that need to go along with this submission, but that will all take place over the next 2 weeks as well. But we're bringing this vote before the board this evening because I believe this is your last meeting before that deadline. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have specific to the wording of the vote. The wording of the vote does come specifically from the MSBA. That's nothing that can change. And if there were any questions about the actual packet itself, I can try to help you with. I'd be more than happy to.
Thank you. Any questions? Laura?
I noticed in the packet the date was dated 3/24. When did you actually receive the packet from Dor Whittier?
With the vote language itself, I prepared on last Friday, and then we received the draft of the statement of interest earlier this morning.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a couple questions,
Sure.
Jay. So has it already been submitted? Because the first thing it says, and it says, thank you for submitting your statement of interest.
No, it doesn't get submitted until April 7th. When we have to work within the MSBA tool that this goes into. So when you're kind of done completing your submission, when you click you're done, to be able to print a copy, you have to finalize the application, and then the copy comes out. So no, it's not going to be submitted until April 7th. And again, we'll still do one final pass on it for grammar. And like I said, there was a date that we wanted to check on one of the schools. But no, it will not be submitted until April 7th.
Okay, yeah, because I did notice some, grammatical and spelling errors. The City of Worcester for one, and a couple others. And I guess I have a question about why we're getting it, why we received, I got it in an email at 2:30 this afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
We have a policy here that anything in our packet should be submitted the Wednesday or no later than the Thursday before the meeting. This is an important vote
Mm-hmm.
for this board, and it just, it was very troubling to me that we couldn't have gotten it earlier, so to have more time to read it a couple of times and understand exactly what's being asked for here, and be able to responsibly ask some questions.
Sure. No, if I can respond, I absolutely understand that. And when I spoke with the town manager on Friday, my actually experience in previous communities working through this is that because there is still 2 weeks prior to the submission to the state, the draft document itself will still undergo a couple of weeks of editing before it goes in. It's always been my experience that community typically takes the actual vote language itself, because the vote itself is what doesn't change. The document itself can be tweaked over the next couple of weeks before the submission. So I wasn't used to actually submitting the entire statement of interest packet for approval. And when I talked to Town Manager Cohen, he said that's customary in town, that you would receive the whole packet. So I did talk to Dora and Whittier, who were helping put this together, and they were working on it, obviously, for the last couple of weeks, but they wanted to continue working on it over the weekend. So they were able to just get us their final pretty good draft this morning, and that's when we sent it to you. So I apologize for the lateness in your receiving it. It wasn't intentional. And as I indicated, I'd be certainly happy to answer questions tonight if there were specific ones. And I certainly could come back at a later time over the next 2 weeks and answer questions if there's another convenient time.
Well, I guess my concern is it's almost like, I mean, I understand what you're saying, that typically you take the vote before you might have the document finalized. I mean, that's like saying, well, let's vote on it, and then we'll show you what we're going to be submitting later.
Yeah.
I understand,
Mhm.
generally what it's going to be, but, there might be some things that we in it that maybe we wouldn't support. So, I don't know, I guess that's just thoughts that I had when, just going through it, and
Right.
and as I said, the lateness of getting it.
Yeah, and again, I absolutely hear you, and I appreciate that, and that, was not the intent. The changes that would occur to the statement at this point, because again, the MSBA has a very kind of prescribed formula for getting into their funding cycle. So there are certain areas you can qualify under and certain that you can't. So at this point in time, say one of them would be overcrowding is one of the issues that you can raise. So we wouldn't be going back and changing any of those specific areas that you would be applying under. But if we did find a grammatical error or something like that in the form, we'd obviously want to correct that going forward. There would be no substantive changes going forward to the document between now and the submission. The norm is you typically are working right up until the submission date itself on trying to finalize that document.
Okay.
Bob?
Back to what Pat had brought up on the first paragraph, it says, please note the district's submission is not yet complete. So you're asking us to vote on something that is incomplete. Is that correct?
Well, no, sir, it's not complete because the votes haven't been taken. We need to log into the system and actually record the dates that the votes were taken for approval and whatnot. There were different certifications that we have to complete to indicate that we've gone through all the different reviews. So the application isn't considered complete in the MSBA's eyes until all of that has transpired, until we log back into the application system and complete all of that. And then ultimately we submit an electronic copy by April 7th, and we also print a paper copy. And there are some paper signatures that are needed to go in with the vote as well.
Does that include drawings and estimates?
No.
No?
No, this statement of interest is the very basic kind of first step in the process to just express your interest to the state that you would like to work with them in the future on a school construction project. So this is not binding, because the language is actually specific to that at the bottom of the vote. This is not binding the town whatsoever as far as ultimately moving forward on a new school construction project. What this is doing is indicating to the SBA that the town of Chelmsford would like to, in the coming years, work with them on a project or have a discussion with them about, would it make sense to entertain a new building, some type of a renovation addition of an existing building, or a remodel, refurb of an existing building. This is just the first step. Again, costs no money at this point, and there's no vote on the table as far as any kind of additional funding for this. Any votes that would relate to whether we actually go forward with this or not, or any kind of cost that would be associated, is probably at least a year out. And at that point in time, would be we'd have to come back and have that discussion with you.
Okay, what is driving this so fast? I mean, we have schools, we have schools that are in good order, particularly the high school. We've spent millions of dollars over the years on infrastructure and what have you in those schools. So why does it have to be April 7th? Can it be April 7th next year?
Yes, well, the MSBA has a window once a year.
Okay.
It's an annual process where this year it happens to be April 7th. It's always in the spring.
Okay.
But what we have been gearing up to is to be able to apply for this spring to at least start the process. Because and again, I think the consensus was if we at least start now, it's going to take you a good 9 to 12 months to even hear back from the MSBA to see if you would be considered or not.
Yeah.
If we're ready to at least express an interest to them now, that we should, instead of waiting a year, because if we waited until 2018, then we wouldn't hear until 2019 if
Right,
it was
right.
going to move forward.
But we're not, the building isn't falling down, and we're not overcrowded, and in light of the capital budget we've done over the past 4 or 5 years, everything, I would expect all the bathrooms have been done, the boilers have been done, the heating systems, air conditioning, air handling. It's just, you want to go in for this April 7th, but there's nothing that would prohibit going in a year from now. And then you'll be all that much wiser because you would have had the portables in place and you'll have better numbers.
Yeah, but what I want to let you know that the numbers have nothing to do with this particular application. So whether it's now or for a year from now, the numbers aren't going to come into play. This is an application basically at this point in time where if we were to entertain any kind of a new construction or whether it was an addition to a particular school, we're talking 6 to 8 years out before you actually saw any results from that. And if we delay a year to just express interest that in the future we're going to have a school that we'd like to work with the MSBA on, inevitably that is just going to back up any type of approval or the state actually working with you on a project.
How many get awarded?
That depends on how many apply. And in this particular round, you're not actually even going to get awarded. What you're hoping to do is be invited into like a feasibility study. So there could be, 75, 100 applications that go in statewide. What they do is each year actually look at the amount of money that they have to commit to projects, and they take a look at the needs of the individual communities to see which are the neediest communities. It's very likely if we submit this year out that we may not even have the need over some other communities to have our project advance.
Do you have to resubmit it at that point?
Every single year. So if we submit now, and let's say next fall they come back to us and our project wasn't chosen, then we can choose to re-up our application. We could submit it again. We'd have to go through this voting process, but we could put it in again in the spring. We feel after a year of kind of looking at this that we're in good shape to be able to at least start the process and put the initial submission in so that we would know what we're actually competing with in the future. Because at some point in time, the town is going to want to move forward with some type of a new building or a construction project. And we'd be much better off utilizing state money if they were able to pay for 50% of the cost to start the work now and at least let them know that we in the future would like to do this. Makes the most sense to us.
Mr. Selectman Joyce and members of the board, what I'd just like to point out is a couple of things. This costs us no money to put this application in, and what it allows us to do is there's a queuing process. And we all know what happens in the state of Massachusetts. Over time, funds dry up. So if we could at least understand in the future what our challenges are going to be sooner rather than later, we can help identify some of the solutions. So by allowing us to move forward on this, costs us nothing. We spent a great deal of energy to get to this point, and to allow us to go forward really gives us a lot of information in the future. And as we all know, the queuing process is so important. So we're going to get a lot of information out of this. It's no commitment on our part at all. It still has to go through a series of votes with our town, but this allows us for no money down, for no dollars, to understand if we're part of this process, and if we are, to identify some of our weaknesses, sir. So we realize this came at you a little late. It was presented to us in that same fashion. Selectman Wojcik.
Came to us
So if you-
fast.
excuse
Came
me?
to us fast.
It did, sir.
Not late.
It did. It did. And you know something, Selectman Joyce, that might not be such a bad thing because we are able to rebound very quickly and get in for the 7th of April. So it came on to us very quickly. We realized that we reacted very quickly to what the state says. So once again, this costs us no money This is a queuing process, and allows us to identify moving forward really what our needs are, as opposed to waiting a whole nother calendar year to identify this. Once again, $0, and this has been something that we've been moving forward and having this discussion. This was coming, but to your point, Selectman Joyce, it did come on fast, which is not a bad thing, sir.
Mr. Chairman, in response to that, I look at this like dominoes. You know how dominoes work? You push one, and then the next one goes, and the next one goes, and the next one goes. 2 years ago, when we went to town meeting, and Paul probably remembers this, I questioned whether or not we should do a study. And I specifically asked, does doing a study automatically move into motion plans to build new schools? And the answer was not necessarily. But once you push that domino down, then we have to listen to the professionals, and they say money is cheaper now than it is later. I mean, I've heard all the stories, okay? But I don't want to kick this off until we know we need to do something with the high school. Because as far as I'm concerned, the high school, in fact, I was up there today, is a fine school, and it's been all renovated. So,
Mr. Joyce, if I could, sir, and you're absolutely right, it might not be the high school, sir. That's why we go in front of them. They look at our entire system, and then they come back with...
But that's your first priority.
Well, we have to get in the queue, sir.
Yeah.
But it's up to them to identify to us what they think we really need, sir. So you're right, it might not be the high school, but there's some really smart people that have been doing this year after year that are going to help us identify our weaknesses in the future. And once again, sir, this is something that will not take place for years and years and years. But we need to identify, at some point we know that there's going to be some kind of a construction.
What we should be doing is making plans for how to make it how to make it feasible for people to stay in this town. Kids that are graduating from colleges can't stay in town. The elderly can't stay in town. And I'm more concerned about that than building a nice, new, shiny high school. So that's where I am.
If I may, that is exactly what this approach does. This is not committing us to a new high school. It's not committing us to a solution. It's committing us to look for a solution that we, as a town, are going to have input on. If we wait another year, we're not going to have any more information a year from now than we do right now. Let's start the process. Let's put people together. Let's have an honest conversation about what the best solution is. But the way to do that is to start with the statement of interest.
But what are the possibilities that we're going to go out to SBSA and they're going to say, okay, why don't you build a new high school? Or why don't you renovate the high school that we've got?
They've done that with a number of other communities, I think.
Yeah, I know.
So
Yeah.
that-
Winchester was one. I'm very familiar with Winchester. But in the end, you people and the people that want to build new schools come back and say, oh, we've spent so much time on this now. We have to spend $150 million or $180 million or $200 million, whatever the number comes out to. And there's it never ends. When we went through the financial problems of a couple years ago, I would have thought that, the school committee would have been grateful to the town for coming up with the money that wasn't there and not coming in with a project the next year. So,
Bob, I think we've all expressed our gratitude repeatedly for what town meeting has done for the schools and for the commitment that the entire town has shown to education here. I think your criticism of us coming back and saying we needed a new high school will be more valid when we actually come back and say that.
But then you won't back off from it.
We're not saying it now.
You won't back off.
We want to have a conversation about what the best solution here is. That's all we're asking for.
But what if the best solution is to leave it as it is and see how the modules go and see if there's any...
Would that be a bad thing? I don't think that'd be a bad thing. Let's have that conversation. Let's find out.
Don't spend the elderly's money. They can't afford it. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Glenn?
First of all, I don't have the document, If it was emailed at 2:30, I was busy working. And just glancing through the document, I probably couldn't have digested it before this meeting, even if I had it. But I don't think that's important to the crux of the question. It's like going in and you're going to sign for a mortgage. How many people really read all that legalese in that packet? You don't have time for that. And you trust the professionals who are developing it. First of all, I do understand the process. I attended most of the meetings that were on this. I have conveyed to Jay and I've conveyed to some of the board members individually that I think a middle school project is more in line. But I do agree that getting in the queue is the most important thing. When it's said that it doesn't come at a cost, it has come at cost because there was $200,000 for the study, then there was additional monies. Your consultant has prepared this document. There is money, that has gone forward. I understand fully that it's a high school project of some kind, that the state can come back and say, we looked at it, we did a lot of work, you really don't need a high school, you need this, but you begin the process. My feeling is if you started with a middle school, you might not lose 1 year, but again, you're the professionals, you're coming in forward saying that you need a high school. We should respect your closeness to the whole project, and therefore I would support it, and I would urge other members of the board to support it as well.
You're absolutely right, Selectman Diggs, and I'd just like to point one thing out, that we asked the town, and we were graciously giving the funds for the application process. So those dollars being spent now, at this point, we're able to move forward. So imagine spending the money and not even asking to get in the queue at this point, which from this point forward, the monies are already spent. There are no more additional monies to be applied for at this point with this application for the statement of interest. So to your point, Mr. Diggs, Selectman Diggs, you're absolutely correct. At this point, moving forward, there'll be no additional funds, but imagine voters, allowing us the dollars to apply for this and spend it and not move forward. So we ask you to allow us to get in the queue. Thank you, sir.
Well, as a counterpoint, if it had come back and they recommended that there was nothing needed, as Mr. Joyce has said, the money would still be well spent, because spending $200,000 to find out you don't have to spend millions isn't a bad thing either.
Absolutely correct.
But they didn't. They come back and they said, you do need something, and the consensus among the people who know it best was that we should go forward with a high school, and that's what we should do.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to bring up a point that I think everyone's aware of, but the talk has been as if we want to have a grandiose new high school end of discussion. But one of the reasons that we went with a high school program is that it helped us to address needs through the whole district. It trickles down, so it's not just to have a pretty new high school. It allows us to address issues at the middle school level, the elementary level, and preschool level. And it's conceivable that, we thought that was the best way, but it is conceivable that this state committee, in looking at things, may disagree and back a middle school program. But that I think it's important for people to realize we're trying to address needs for the whole district.
Thank you. Glenn?
Can I ask you a question directly to that? If the town didn't expend the money for the additional mobile classrooms, how would the high school project address the needs at the elementary school?
Well, I think you can, I can take it and you can clean me up. But no, if we had the new high school, then the current high school, as I understand things, would become middle school, combining student bodies from both Parker and McCarthy. And because of the history of the high school, it's designed in such a way that the challenge of servicing the kids in a big school would be handled essentially the same way it has been for the high school. There would be, you could even have, if you can structure it any way you want, but you could even have 2 principals, and because of the wings and so forth, still have the students serviced in a smaller way. So without getting further with that, then my understanding is, a possibility then at that point is to use Parker for upper middle school grades, which would free up space at the existing elementary schools. So it ripples all the way down through. A part of that also is the closing, possible closing of McCarthy. But those are all things that we have, that's been our vision, kind of, in terms of moving forward. But they may, in their wisdom, say that you could do it in a different way. It just seemed for us, when we had to make a decision, that it was the best way of addressing multiple concerns at the same time.
And I think what's important is your question you just asked, sir. That's what they're going to do, Selectman Joyce. They're going to listen to all these ideas, and that's all we're doing is talking. And then they're going to say, you know what, that sounds like a good idea to you, but let us tell you how it really should be, because we're the experts. So before we start talking about high schools and middle schools, and that has nothing to do with it, sir. All that has to do with it, this is a statement of interest that allows us to get in the queue, to allow us to have a discussion for the experts to tell us what your community needs. So I think it's really important that we not really look on what might be a high school, to your point, sir, or a middle school. All this is a discussion, just like what Selectman Diggs just said. He had an opinion, he asked a question, but really, that's what this does. It allows us to have that free flow conversation, sir. From this point forward, for free.
Well, it's really not free, Sal.
From this point forward, we get in the queue,
Right.
and they examine us, sir, and they tell us how they feel, sir, because we've already expended, to your point, sir, and to Chairman Diggs, I apologize, Selectman Diggs, we've already expended money that we've asked the town for. That money's gone, it's spent, it's sunk, and this is the byproduct of it, an opportunity to get in the queue, sir.
But the intent of that money wasn't to build a school. It was to look at all buildings in the town and make a recommendation.
Correct, but it was also intended to be used as evidence to support a
Well,
new building project if needed.
intention is a big thing with the school committee.
It
They
is.
never intended of buying 16 modulars neither.
All right, let's not get off point. Go ahead, Glenn.
Jay, could you just explain, particularly for Bob's edification, once you go through this step,
Right.
and you get a year from now, and they say, yeah, we want to hear more, what goes on after that?
So
Steps after that?
assuming we submit April 7th, sometime at the earliest, next fall, potentially even going into the winter, the SBA would reach back out to us and they would say, based on the number of applications that we've received, hopefully we feel, your application is worthy based on your need, and we would like to have you in to do like a feasibility study of your particular project. So at that point in time, locally, we would have to put together a team of individuals, very similar to what we did for our facility assessment work, but we would have to put together a team of individuals from the town, from the school department. There'd be a school committee rep. Typically, there's a board of selectmen or a governing body rep. The town manager actually appoints individuals to the committee. So there would be a committee that would be formed to really take a look at some of the work we've already done. So I think we're in a very good light as far as having a lot of the background information together already. But they would take a look at our facilities. They would take a look at the reporting that's already been done. And MSBA would also then have representatives that would be working with you to take a look at your issues. Our issue is that Chairman Thomas spoke about earlier is really at the elementary grade level in the years to come, enrollment-wise. That's where our issue is. Our issue isn't enrollment at the high school. But as we went through our different projects, one of the things that we identified as a way to possibly address the elementary overcrowding now and in the years to come is through one project. And what project could have the most impact on the town? And what project, if you only had one project going on, could take most needs off the table? So that's why For this particular application project, we were looking at a high school project. You could then look at possible grade configurations, as happened. Borica looked at that. They went into the project thinking they were going to get a new high school, and they're also having some elementary overcrowding. They wanted to be able to take a school offline. So their new high school that they're building is actually an 8 through 12 instead of a 9 through 12. That's something that could come out of this. You could look at different, grade level configurations, but the key is, say, a year from now, to your point, it would be to have that team be put together with the SBA, have them work with us to actually analyze our issues, and then come up with options that, hopefully, could be pursued in years to come.
Is there a financial commitment at that point?
Only if you actually get invited into the feasibility round, and you're going to go through the assessment. After the initial kind of pass, if it looks like they're going to invite you in, then you do need to actually vote and appropriate funding to hire some type of a like an architect to do work with you on schematic designs and things along those lines.
That's $1
But
million, did I hear?
It honestly, it varies community to community based on size of projects. It can go anywhere from, $600,000 to $1 million, depending on what you're doing. That vote is probably, a year and a half to even 2 years off if we ever got to that point. I don't see us coming back to the town for that type of appropriation for, again, that year and a half to 2 years, because we would have that much work to be doing on our own to get to that point.
So when you finish that, then the state finally decides. And am I correct, in this past year, there were over 80 people in that category, 8 schools, and less than 20 were funded?
Yeah, I don't have the exact numbers, but it was somewhere, close to 100 applications, and I do believe it was less than 20 projects in total. So, it was about a 20% chance of moving on. Now, if you don't get funded, all those other communities also will reapply the following year. And then on a year-to-year basis, you're judged based on your need in the community. So there's a very good chance, unfortunately, that a year from now we'd be notified that unfortunately we're not moving on, and then we would have to have this discussion and try to get into the funding pipeline the following year.
Go ahead.
Mr. Joyce?
Is that when the $1 million gets paid?
No, you don't have to pay the $1 million until you actually, if they say they want to start to work with you.
Right.
After you go through a little bit of the, I believe it's called the feasibility, no, I'm sorry, it's called the eligibility phase. When you go through that, at the end of that phase, if you're going to continue on, then that's when you need the appropriation.
And if they don't buy it after that, you lose the $1 million?
If who doesn't buy it?
If the SBA doesn't,
If a district is invited from eligibility into feasibility,
Yeah.
they've never gone
okay,
back.
all right.
So at that point in time, we would actually know which type of project was advancing. We would have a sense of what the dollar amounts would be, what the community buy-in would be.
So I've done a lot of research on local communities that have been denied recently. We've got Stoneham, 4 years denied, looking at second year, trying to finance their project on their own. Their high school is actually older than ours. Wakefield also denied for the specific reasons that the MSBA is looking for the criteria of safety first, overcrowding second, potential loss of consideration or accreditation third is their priorities looking forward. So my question to you is, if it turns out that the MSBA does not recognize this next year and the following year, and it gets to be 3 or 4 years down the line, how long does the school committee intend to wait before they start looking at the report that Whittier provided last year to come up with another solution? What is our option as the modulars that are on site at the middle schools continue to age, continue to have problems? What do we do, and how do we know that we've waited long enough and we really need to take care of this ourselves?
Take care of this ourselves, meaning do a project by ourselves?
Try to come up with a plan by ourselves, because 3 or 4 or 5 years has gone by and the MSBA is not willing to put us as a priority. How long do we wait before we look at other options?
A couple things on that, and if I don't answer your question directly, please let me know. We would still be continuing with a regular capital project, capital plan for the town and for the schools in the years to come. So immediate needs that would come up, that would arise from that, obviously we'd have to be making repairs as we go. Because even if we did a new school, again, you're talking 6 to 8 years out before you had a new building. So we can't just forget the buildings that we have now and not maintain them. So we'll continue to maintain them. At some point, if it were a year or two down the line that the MSBA wasn't funding our applications for whatever reason, I think that would be a time we'd all have to come back together and find out, why. Is there a different strategy we should try to employ? Is there a different way to try to, get into the pipeline that we're not seeing? I think we would have to revisit it at that time. I don't think the community, quite honestly, would have the wherewithal financially to be able to go out and do a new, I don't want to talk for everyone here, but to do a building project on our own without the 50% reimbursement from the state. I think that's unlikely. And I think we would just need to continue to push the state to, move our school project into the pipeline. But I would say, after, the first year, obviously if we weren't invited in, the school committee would be discussing it and trying to find out and get feedback from the MSBA about, why our application wasn't funded, taking a look at the communities that did get funded compared to us and see if there, was a clear reason why ours didn't go and theirs did. And we need to come back and have that conversation. If it were specifically that, again, you're only going to see so many, say, high school level projects voted any particular year, just because those are your costlier projects across the state. And, the SBA, again, has limited funding, and they want to knock off a number of projects. I think one of the things we do actually have going for us, though, is that as the town of Chelmsford has not gone to the MSBA for a project in a while. And the SBA does like to kind of spread their resources around a little bit. They're not going to want to go to the same community and build a new school year after year after year. They're going to want to kind of spread their available funding. So I do think that goes to our benefit over the next year or two to get a project funded. But if we're not successful in this first go-around, I think that's when we have to come back to the table and just see how we can make our application more attractive. We have to see who got funded, who didn't get funded, what we can do to shed our project in a better light. I think there's also advocacy work that needs to happen, even outside of the SBA application process. We need to, be meeting with our legislatures and individuals from the SBA and kind of making our pitch and making our argument so they know how important this is to the community, both in the short term, and then how it also factors into the long-term building project for the town. That would obviously, a lot of my work would be kind of coming up with that information and educating people on that as we move through for the projects for the years to come.
So I guess I have a couple questions on that one. The first, somebody else.
Well, Mr. Chairman, can I just say that I don't think the select woman's concerns are out of line or in fact, they're good, right? That if this project is going to become a problem at the MSBA level, then we should know sooner rather than later.
Absolutely.
That's another reason to go forward this year, so that if there is bad news, let's get it. Let's find out, and then we move on and figure out what we have to do in that situation.
Okay, so I just remembered my two questions. Is there an expiration date on the Doran Whittier proposal? It seemed to be a concern at one point. We were pushing for it. Now I'm hearing that we can still use the same assessment, not get a new assessment. So how good is the Doran Whittier work towards the SOI justification? And secondly, if we have to go back year after year after year, do we have to come up with additional funds every year to get someone to help us write a better proposal?
What was your first question?
Expiration date on
Oh,
the
on the
assessment.
expiration. There's no expiration date on the assessment. So the work that Doran Whittier did with us on the comprehensive facility assessment to provide that benchmark data for our decisions to help inform, again, the capital planning and things like that, that's a valid report. I mean, so that is a report that we'll now be using now and going forward over the next 10 years as we're making decisions about how to maintain and keep the current buildings up. So that's not going to expire.
But so
That's-
that, to speak to what Selectman Joyce was saying, if we did not submit this year and we submitted next year this proposal, we could still use the same assessment. That we would have, that could be brought forward.
Well, the date is not going to change. I mean, so it is.
I understand. I just want to verify that we don't have to pay for another $200,000 study if at
No,
some
that-
point,
that
if
is-
we
yeah.
were to do that.
Correct. That is our study, and that is our kind of working blueprint for the next number of years to come. That provided the baseline data that we needed. As far as we paid Dora Whittier an additional $40,000 to help us identify which of the master plan options is the one we wanted to proceed with, and then also for their work to put the statement of interest together. If, for whatever reason, if we submit the statement of interest and it's not successful and it doesn't get funded, then if we were going to maintain a high school project, we could on our own go in and just tweak the application if there's some things that the SBA says you need to do to make it more attractive. We could submit the exact same application again. They allow you just to put the same application in because you might have a different need group going forward in year 2 as opposed to year 1. So we have that. That wouldn't cost us any additional money. If we ever got to the point where we said as a community, you know what, we just think the high school option is not going to be viable in the MSBA's eyes, and we have these other needs in the district that are identified, then we have to make the decision. Do we want to put our own SOI together? Do we want to hire someone to help us put an SOI together? That would be kind of a bridge we'd have to cross at that time.
And Mr. Cohen, could you just confirm in the past we had put our own SOIs together? For things like this? Or did we hire someone in the past?
Mr. Maloney and Mr. Persichetti, I think, assembled the last statement of interest that I was involved with, because that was a post-project statement of interest. When you recall, when the community went out back, the last project for the high school, Performing Arts Center and the middle school libraries, the community went at risk. Because you remember the MSBA, you may recall, the MSBA program had been suspended at that time, it was being revamped. So what ended up happening, working with the legislative delegation and so forth, we had to basically submit a post-project materials, and that was done by Pat Maloney and Gary Persichetti, who's in the room this evening.
Since then, the MSBA process has changed.
It's all changed, right?
Yeah.
But she had asked the question, what had happened in the last iteration, which
The other
was
thing is-
rather extraordinary.
Is there any reason we couldn't use this as a template? If we got feedback from either the MSBA or from legislators that said, look, this part of it is good, this part of it is not working, we wouldn't necessarily have to bring them back in to write the second year. We could do that ourselves.
We could do it internally.
But here we've got at least
We have the basis.
base. Mhm.
Correct, and we also have all the supporting documentation, which again, I think is invaluable, because when you're up against other communities that haven't done the baseline assessment like we did, you're putting yourself in a better light with the SBA. They realize you're taking it seriously. They realize you're not just writing a statement of interest that isn't grounded in anything, but we're actually being able to ground our application in the facility assessment that was done. So again, if not successful, if they gave us a little bit of feedback, we could certainly go and tweak the application ourselves for year 2 or year 3. If we do a wholesale change to the application, we'd probably have to come back and revisit and see who makes the most sense of doing that.
Mr. Napoli?
Yes, Chairman Dixon, I just want to point out a couple of things. Mr. Joyce, you are correct that we did spend $200,000, but this town, the voters also allowed us to spend an additional $40,000 for the very process that we have in front of us now, sir. They didn't say, come back to us next year and we'll give you the money. They gave it to us this year because they realized the importance of the queue. So those $40,000 that we asked the taxpayers to give us, we took it, we spent it, and now we have a document that they asked us to put together and hopefully get in the queue. So I would just hate it, Mr. Selectman, if we took the taxpayers' money and then told them, when we spent it this year, but we're not going to use it till next year. This allows us this year, sir, to get into the queue. Thank you,
I
sir.
want to correct one thing, though, that you said, Sal, and that's that the taxpayers approved it. The taxpayers didn't approve it. The town meeting approved it.
Well, I think
And
they're.
for the way town meeting runs today.
I don't disagree, you, sir.
where you
I
can't even
don't disagree.
fill 11 seats a
Yeah,
year.
well.
It's not the voter that you, watch, if we go
No,
to
I
a
don't,
prop
Mr.
2.5,
Selectman, and
they're
I
gonna
don't
kill it.
disagree with you, sir.
They're gonna kill it.
Maybe the right way was to say that our representatives
Right.
gave us the ability, who represents the taxpayers. They're the voices, from what I believe, sir. So the voices allowed us to spend $40,000 that came out of our budget for this year, sir. And I would just, I don't think we're doing the taxpayers a service if we decide next year to submit this, sir. And once again, just a statement of interest. They're going to tell us what to do from that point on, sir.
Are there any, you
All set, yeah.
Is there any other questions?
I have
Go
one last
ahead.
question. You voted earlier this evening on this article. Could you just let us know your vote, and did you describe the deliberations of that meeting, since none of us were able to attend?
Can I?
Anyone here that's to, maybe Chairman would like to add to that, or somebody else?
Yeah. Happy to, or Al, if you want to.
I just started and you can head. The vote was unanimous, and the deciding factor is the theme that's been repeated numerous times, that this is allowing us to go forward, to get feedback from the state, and depending on where they take us, we go from there. It would take so long for me to summarize that all over again, but the statement is put out by the organization. It has to be read literally, and all it says is we're asking to be put in line.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Pat, you want to make a motion, please?
All right, take a stab at it. Okay, I make a motion that having convened today on March 27th, 2017, prior to the closing date, this Board of Selectmen votes to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest dated April 7, 2017 for Chelmsford High School located at 200 Richardson Road, which describes and explains the following deficiencies and priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future regarding elimination of existing severe overcrowding, prevention of severe overcrowding expected to result from increased enrollments, replacement, renovation, or modernization of school facility systems such as roofs, windows, boilers, heating and ventilation systems to increase energy conservation and decrease energy-related costs in the school facility, and replacement of or addition to obsolete buildings in order to provide for a full range of programs consistent with state and approved local requirements. And hereby further specifically acknowledge that by submitting the statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the city or of the town of Chelmsford to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority.
Have a second?
Second.
There's a second. All those in favor?
I'd like some discussion.
I'm sorry, I should have asked for discussion. Please, excuse me.
I have followed this process for well over a year. I find it very difficult to, after this point, that we're here tonight in this manner. The reason I followed this so quickly is because I don't feel that, I don't look at things as one article, I don't think of things as one issue. I think I look at the big picture. And 3 years ago, we started with the school having a major budget crisis. And town meeting had to come up with $800,000 to get them out of the hole. And then the next year, we had to ask for another $500,000 because that wasn't enough. And then Dr. Lang came in, and it was going to be okay, but instead we had to adjust his budget up again, well over the standard increase, so that he could keep up with the current spending. And then we were asked for $200,000 for an assessment. And then we were asked for another $40,000 to complete the assessment that should have been completed with the $200,000, but unfortunately we diverted the efforts of that process so that we could get modular classrooms. Modular classrooms that we originally needed 8 classrooms, and over the few weeks that transpired, it went all the way up to 22 classrooms. Basically, we've built an entire school of modular classrooms. When we had originally voted for the original $200,000, I believe, Dr. Lang, you came up and said how critical it was that we get rid of the existing modular classrooms. The existing modular classrooms that just a week or two ago we were replacing electrical units on because the heating issues could not be fixed otherwise. We still have those classrooms, and we still will have those modular classrooms for several years to come. Those classrooms were 22 degrees a couple of weeks ago. I don't even want to get into that, but that is a huge issue. They're at both schools. We now start looking at, and the 8 classrooms to 22, we really haven't talked about the true cost of adding that many classrooms, because when you come up with more classrooms, you're going to need more janitors, and you're going to need more teachers, and you're going to need to keep the heat on in more rooms, and you're going to need to air condition more rooms. And you're now going to need to keep the snow clean in between the schools, so now you're going to have to buy more snow cleaning equipment. And now you're going to have to, there's promises that we're going to get money back from that, but I'm sure in a few months that the school committee is going to realize that you can't drag computers back and forth across the wet parking lot, and so they're going to be asking for computers to outfit all these modular classrooms, so there's not going to be any money coming back from that in a few months. And let's see, now we're looking at the FY18 budget, which is also part of this, because there's another new $800,000 that of full-day kindergarten cost to that, gosh, if it were so easy to pay for those, I'm sure any of the school committee members would have done over the nearly 2 decades that this issue has come up, but instead this school committee in front of us has decided to trick us into it, and I'll go into that in a few moments. In addition,
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, but I
That-
have
this is a
waited.
political
You're
statement.
gonna have to speak.
This has
And I
nothing to do with
not
the
want to be
SOI.
interrupted.
Well,
Has nothing to do with the SOI you're voting on.
I am
I'm
not
sorry,
asking for
but your
you to
comment was out of
interrupt
line.
me.
It-
I am
Just-
not finished.
yeah, okay, you finished, but no name calling, okay? Please.
I will try my best.
Try
Now
harder.
we're also, the school, last I heard, the school committee budget was also already, in addition to the $800,000 that Mr. Cohen says he's going to give them for full-day kindergarten, it's still off by $400,000. Then last week, I turn on the school committee and I hear that they were getting salaries to administrative and principals that were well over the contracted 2%, as much as 15% in some cases over last year alone. This totaled $98,000 in salaries that all of a sudden, I don't know why you couldn't have gotten paid for some of the study with this if you got all this extra money for raises. We have a capital improvement plan that is coming out, and while we have a book like this from Durham Whittier, the school committee has pulled their priority as replacing accordion walls in the high school. This is listed as a 4 to 6 year out priority, not in the 1 to 2 year priorities. And the only reason I can conceive that it's being put out this year is because by fixing these walls, it potentially might cause one single need to show up on the MSBA, in that we have small-sized classrooms in these high school. The lateness of this is true, of these bills are never, never intentional, but it has been a consistent pattern in this process from the beginning, and it just adds to the lack of transparency. I have heard several comments from the school committee members that have really been shocking over the years. Last month, we had one school committee member saying, we don't really need all of this, but why not go for it all? That same school committee member was surprised in December when Durham Whittier described the modular classrooms they were about to build as Band-Aids. Another member of the school committee insisted he would not support Band-Aid solutions a week later, but heavily supported the increase of more modular classrooms, so now we're up to 22. One member of the school committee was, a year after having these meetings, still reading the charts, thinking that green was the best, and saying that we should be selling off schools that were still being paid for by MSBA funds for several years to come. When I asked the superintendent what would be the consequences of selling a school that still had an MSBA grant on it, his response was that we did it in Lowell and they never came back to get their money. We also had another member of the school committee gloating on Facebook just hours after the fall town meeting, where I was prevented from speaking about the modular classrooms because it was all about full-day kindergarten, yet you can look at that person's posting on Facebook saying, yeah, it was all about full-day kindergarten. And similar posts saying that if residents don't like it, they can move out of town. I take offense to the insinuation that we should not be reading the full document. It was just 3 years ago that we found out that the school committee was in severe budget crisis because we found out people weren't reading the full document. And I also disagree with Selectman Diggs saying that the school committee are the experts on what facilities they need to be making, because they were elected to be the experts on education, not facilities. And if this study has taught me one thing, it has taught me that this town should never, ever engage in another study of this magnitude with allowing one board all the say in it. That right up front, we should have members of finance, members of board of selectmen, members of the town involved in this process to keep it transparent. I've just, throughout this process, we keep trying to wiggle around what is the most important thing, but by timing, we don't get to vote on the things that are right in front of us. This is about, this whole proposal it's got so many emotional issues with it, and we're not voting on the right bill for the right reasons. We're trying to keep up with the Joneses, like Lowell and Bill Ricca, and we're trying to buy a Mercedes when we can't afford it, and we already have a car that works. I mean, this is very difficult, and I think that people are going to think that the Board of Selectmen stopped this proposal, but by voting no tonight, you are not saying no to that proposal. You're saying no to the wrong proposal that will never get MSBA recognition. The Dora Whittier said that both support of a high school and a middle school were both address all the educational needs. The high school proposal, on the other one hand, was 2 times as much money as anything we can do in the middle school. It's going to be a harder project to show needs because currently, even if you look out for 20-year projection, the school is still undersized. It's one of the youngest buildings we have in our lot, and we don't have any major educational needs. In fact, we did win several awards in 21st century classrooms. The middle school project, on the other hand, was half the cost, easier to show the need through the older buildings, the stated need of the science labs that need to be fixed, the aging modulars in both buildings. There's all kinds of, we have been pouring all of this money. The most code violations are at Parker School. And as I said earlier, there's an MSBA loan on the middle school. Yeah. So everything that I've seen here is just going for whatever the school committee wants without any regard to what the town can afford. And I really have to say, This is not the time to try to go forward with this without taking a look at the entire book and really reading what we need. Why aren't we going to address the priorities that were identified over a year ago? Why aren't those code priorities being put forth on the capital budget instead of silly things like accordion rooms? Please ask yourself that. And really, the taxpayers are not the school's personal ATM, and my vote tonight is going to cut you off, not because of this proposal, but because of everything that I have seen since I have gotten involved with this project.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
No,
You're all set? Okay, we have a motion on the floor
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? 3-2 in favor, Vivian. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Reports and presentations. Steve Yanni, please. Take a few minutes, I guess, for the
Good job.
It was a good job. No, it was, I'm not. Steve, you're gonna talk about the street acceptance of the following, and name the following streets?
Yeah, good evening, just Stephen Yanni, Assistant Director of Public Works for the record. Remember back in January, I was here with a brief presentation on some accepted and unaccepted streets and a program going forward to formally accept some of the unaccepted ones, just as a mere formality, and plus it aids with our state aid, Chapter 90 road reimbursement money. Before you tonight, I have 6 streets that were pretty simple to put together, off of readily available original subdivision plans. So we proceeded with those towards the end of January. And what I have is the first step in what is a 4-step process. This is, all the motions are the same for the 6, so I don't know if it's easier to just kind of insert all 6 into one motion in the effort to save a little time here. But what this is the public intent, the selectmen make the motion for a public intent to accept the street, and then the second page in the documents I sent to you is a letter that goes, signed by the chairman, to the planning board for their comments, and then after their comments, I actually come back to the board prior to town meeting, which is when I have the full set of paperwork that's signatures and like, and the final step in the process is town meeting vote. So gladly answer any questions, or you can go into
Anybody
the
have any
motion.
questions?
I have one, George.
Okay.
I could probably go out and do this on my own, but I'd like to know what the conditions of these roads are. Are they due to be hot topped? I don't want to accept them and
At this point, they've been unaccepted so long, the town has paved the majority of them either through the sewer project or through capital funds. As I stated when I was back in January, there are roads, we're responsible for them. They're eligible to use Chapter 90 money on. It's one of the
These weren't.
streets in there, Frederick, we just paved this summer. Because it was in poor condition in Pine Street going in, we were repaving anyway. So all this does is add into the formula of accepted streets that will boost our reimbursement money. That's why, when I was back in January, I said some of these roads have been streets in town for 40, 50, 60 years. And just for whatever reason, the Ts weren't crossed and the Is weren't dotted, or whatever the case may be. So over the next 4 or 5 years, I'll be bringing forward.
So we'll be maintaining these almost
We maintain them
immediately?
now.
We maintain, why? If they weren't accepted roads?
Well, then, quite honestly, we're not gonna stop maintaining 20 miles of road all over town.
You have taxpayers.
No, but I thought that was the whole,
They pay taxes as well, Bob.
They have taxpayers.
yeah,
on
but
it.
the whole point is that the builder should have done that.
There's no builder around to have them
I
pay
know,
right
but-
there. So what's the choice? We say to these taxpayers, you get second-class
Someone
treatment?
dropped the ball.
Right, but
Yeah, well,
that's not
Before most of
before
our
most of
time.
our time. But what do we say to these people now who are paying the same taxes as everybody else?
I'm just tired of the taxpayer getting screwed.
No, we're helping the taxpayer not get screwed,
Oh,
Bob.
you're
This is what
helping
this
a
is.
group of taxpayers that
This is-
live on that street, but not every taxpayer in town.
But again, this
Well,
is
as a
state
taxpayer-
reimbursement money. It's not, that at the end of the day helps me get more Chapter 90 money from the
You
state.
heard Ms.
It will
Yonley
make
say,
you-
we're maintaining them, we just paved them anyway. What the purpose of these acceptances are is it puts us on the reimbursement list for the state so that we get more money from the state gasoline tax,
Right.
which helps all the taxpayers of Chelmsford.
But up until this point, it's been a donation by the town to those people, correct?
Well, they've been paying
No,
the
what we've been
taxes.
saying is we've been foregoing the opportunity to get reimbursement, and we're trying to treat people fairly because it's no fault of the current owners of those properties that the roads were never formally accepted by the town a generation ago. So, I mean, this is the reality we have today. We can leave it as is, not get reimbursement, and still have the people demanding and receiving services, or we can accept it, have it put into the reimbursement formula, and get more money from the gas tax back to the community to assist everybody. We're better off.
Do we have as-built on all these roads?
We do have as-built on the majority of them. My office, Scott, my office generated the acceptance plan, with a copy of which should have been in the package I sent you. Should be the third page on each street.
Yes.
Okay. George?
All set. Glenn?
Did I understand you correctly that you were going to bring packets of these streets? There are more of them that will come forward as time goes by?
Yeah, as town manager and I had discussed back before, and then what I mentioned to the board here in January, was probably over the next 4 or 5 years will come in clumps. Some of them are gonna be, they're longer roads, so it's gonna be a little more work. Some have these were simple because they have a subdivision plan, like, Glendale's cul-de-sac, Kennedy Drive, even up with the post offices in North. It's a cul-de-sac, it has a simple subdivision plan. It's easier for us to inspect, recreate a plan for street acceptance purposes. Some of them will need survey, so I'm assuming over the course, there'll be some capital funds that'll need to be used, for survey purposes to generate a layout. There may or may not be some land takings involved, just get a specific thing unless we do a variable width type of layout, which we can do. We have roads that are variable width, so there'd be no property taking. We'll just have to see how some of them fit. Some of them are older roads, Elm Street's one of them, so we'll have to see how that fits. Lock Road's older road. So, some of them are gonna be real simple. These 6 were real simple.
So these are like the apples that are on the ground.
Oh,
And as we keep going up the tree, they'll need a
Exactly.
little bit more
Yep.
packaging.
Exactly.
Any other
Thank you.
questions? Good motion, Pat, please.
All right. Make a motion that this board vote its intention to lay out Kennedy Drive, Schofield Street, Biltmore Avenue, Glendale Road, Frederick Street, and Holmes Street as public ways known by their respective names and shown on plans dated January 9, 2017, prepared by the Town of Chelmsford Department of Public Works Engineering Division, and forward the proposed layout as shown on said plans to the Planning Board for its comment and recommendations pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 811.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Licenses. A roadside vendor for dog park. Kim and Shasha. Prue.
Yes, good evening. I'm Kim Prue, and my daughter's sitting over there.
She lucky.
We'll keep it very simple. You already received our application, which had all the information about what we were hoping to do for the Chelmsford Dog Park this summer. And we just hope that you will approve it.
Any questions?
There's going to be a
They would
new
need-
flavor every week of dog ice cream. But then again, you have to get it on the way.
Come up here, honey,
Please,
please.
they can't hear you. They can't hear you without the
Then again,
microphone.
you have to get it on the way out because, sadly, you can't eat in the dog park because, yeah.
Well, we're gonna,
Okay.
set up a
It's all
Yep.
Merrill's fault.
Yeah.
a vendor.
I can't talk that much tonight.
George.
Oh, Glenn?
Yes?
Has this ever been done before?
No, the
Deal?
Chelmsford Dog Park just opened last.
No, but I mean in other dog parks.
I have not heard of it before, no. We just came up with the idea ourselves.
Tell the business name.
If this is successful, you're going to go on the Sharks?
Shark Tank.
The business name is Canine Cravings.
If it gets approved.
I think you do well. Hope you do well.
We just want to notify the board, and maybe a condition of your vote, that they would also have to obtain Board of Health approval.
Okay.
Because it's a food product.
Right.
Even though it is for
Yeah.
canines, but I
Good
just want
idea.
to make sure they don't leave here thinking that they're all set, or the board's, making sure that you understand that there is a
Board of Health, you know you have to go, be in front of the Board of Health, ma'am?
I was wondering where our next step would
Yeah,
be if.
that's your
if
next
it-
step.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Yeah, and the dog association is okay with, the dog park committee is okay with this?
Yes, we've.
There he is. Okay.
Yes, I'm Will Wagner, president of the Chelmsford Dog Association. We took a vote last month at our board meeting to approve her to go forward with this on the condition that, of course, it not be inside the park, but outside in the parking lot area.
Okay.
That wouldn't be on the street, though, right?
No.
No.
No,
within
the
parking
parking
lot
lot
area.
Okay.
Paul's gonna give you a sidewalk this year, too.
There you go, that's right, sidewalk's coming.
Be careful, it's a dangerous curve.
They're not likely to get hit by cars
Right.
because there's no freaking sidewalk.
Let's go here. Okay.
Let your
Make a
attorney
motion.
handle this for you.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve a roadside vendor license to Kim and Sasha Prue for 52 Richardson Road from June 1st, 2017 to August 31st, 2017, for the hours of 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. for the sale of dog treats, contingent on Board of Health approval.
I'll second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Good luck, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy.
Would you like your money now?
No. You could do that in your office.
Okay, public hearings, continuance, transfer of all alcohol restaurant license from the Deep and Riney LLC DBA Castori Restaurant to Aksha Party Restaurant Inc., DBA Castori Restaurant.
Hi, good evening. My name's attorney Courtney John Ball, work at Nicosia & Associates. This here is Himanshu Patel. He's the president and treasurer of Extra Party Restaurant Inc. So basically, we are looking for the transfer of the license. Basically, it's the Castori Restaurant and Lounge, 100 Tingsboro Road. Transfer of the current license, transfer/grant of a common victular license with entertainment. There is, when I say entertainment, I mean strictly as is right now. There's 7 televisions, 1 widescreen, 6 regular TVs, 3 Kino, there's a radio and a jukebox. Also, as part of the transaction, we do need to pledge the license inventory and collateral, primarily to Enterprise Bank in support of a loan for the transaction, the real estate, and secondarily to Deep and Rini LLC and Rini Amin, which is the current licensee, license holder, to support a loan for the business assets. And finally, we'd like to request that the current license fee that's been paid to the town carry over with the transfer of the license, and the current licensee will get reimbursed at closing. As we were here last 2 weeks ago, the one outstanding item was that Himanshu would get his TIPS certification, and I do have that certification here. I emailed that to Sharon this morning. I have a
Give it to
email
the man.
copy if anybody hasn't seen it.
We have to make 2 motions on this one?
No.
Didn't know if you want a special one.
Well, we have to close public hearing.
I just want to,
Thank you. Anyway, we're happy to take any questions you might have. Just to refresh your memory, Himanshu does have experience as a licensee holder in Lowell, Mass. And there's been no suspensions or revocations of that license during his ownership.
any other questions? Are there any questions out in the audience for this public hearing? Maybe, make a motion to close the public hearing, please.
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Hold on one
Hold on,
second,
they
that's
didn't
just the
close the
public
public
one.
hearing. They didn't
Yeah.
have to
Oh,
go yet.
sorry.
All right.
You want to make the motion for?
Sure. Make a motion that we approve the transfer of the all alcoholic beverages restaurant license from Deep and Rini LLC to Extra Party Restaurant DBA Castori Restaurant to be exercised on the premises at 100 Tingsboro Road, including the entertainment license for radio, TV, amplifiers and movies, and including the pledge of license and inventory.
I'll
Thank you.
second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Good luck.
Thanks very much. Have a nice night.
It appears that this has been postponed, the dangerous dog.
Yeah, I would
hearing.
ask you to continue we're seeking to resolve the matter with the parties, town council and the animal control officer. So I'd ask that the board continue the hearing for the dangerous dog hearing for Patricia Lesniewski of 110 Stedman Street until your April 10th meeting.
Beautiful.
Okay, I'll make that.
Make that motion.
I'll make a motion that we continue the dangerous dog hearing for Patricia Lesniewski at 110 7th Street to April 10th, 2017 at 7 p.m.
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Town manager reports?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief this evening. There's just two matters I want to inform the board about and the community about, and they both have to do with land use activities. The first one is as I sent you by email, but just wanted to let the community be aware. There's a 5-acre parcel that's come on the market adjacent to St. John's Church up on North Chelmsford off of Middlesex Street. Basically, if you were to face the church and you have the parking lot to the left of the entrance to the church, the church owns a parcel that runs up back to the property, and in fact, at the very end of the property, and I'll pass it around, I did email it to you, but I'll pass you copies of the map as well. It does all the way back up to what we'd call the Highland Soccer Fields, which, as you know, used to be the Highland School and is now run by the Housing Authority. The property is now on the open market. We have had discussions with the church and the Archdiocese of Boston about their intentions. They've informed us when we met it recently as this afternoon, and they basically tell us their intention. Their intention is to sell the parcel, that this isn't sort of an expedition, that their intent is to, in good faith, sell this parcel. You can see the parcel in its totality is 5 acres if you go all the way out to Middlesex Street. They basically intend to keep the parking lot area, so it's basically where the parking lot ends, and it goes all the way back there as you're running parallel to Tobin Avenue, a roughly 3-acre parcel. They have received a plan that they paid for that would show a potential ability to put a 4-house subdivision in if you came in off of John Street onto the parcel.
Paul,
Go ahead.
can you tell me the number of the parcels?
Oh, it's parcel 20-50-4. So if you're looking.
-4, okay.
50-4, so you can see it's that large parcel. The two large squares would be Highland Building if you keep going 20-50-25.
So is
again,
it the dark area and the light area?
no, it's just the light area. The
Just
dark
the light.
area is the pavement area of the
Existing
parking lot.
parking lot.
So they're going to retain that. They may allow utility easements to go through the parking lot for the development of that site. But the intention is that one would access it from John Street, and once you get to the far end, the topography gets real tough. If you've ever been behind the Highland Soccer Fields, you know the height that's up there. And therefore, with the grade of the land, there is a wetland toward the edge of the parking lot, if you've ever been at the other side of the parking lot. So that's why they're looking at the access from John Street. Again, what I'm telling you is public information, so I'm not disclosing or violating anything. It's on the market for $400,000. We've brought this to the attention of David Hedison at the Housing Authority. David indicates that he doesn't believe that the Housing Authority of Choice would pursue this matter at this time, given his other commitments and constraints. But I wanted the board and the community to be aware that tomorrow evening at the North Village Master Plan Committee, this will be a discussion item for consideration. In essence, why I bring this to you is, one, make you aware of it, make the community, those who watch us, aware of it, because a meeting like tomorrow night's is not televised. What I see happening here is something is going to happen, and it's going to be one of two things in my mind. Either there'll be some form of housing on that property, or the other possibility is if the town wanted to get involved with the purpose of community preservation funds or otherwise, to create an open space or recreational or playground, park-like area. And I think that's what the committee will be discussing tomorrow night, to see if there's any interest in the neighborhood or the area, to see if that's to take place. So again, I'm just bringing this to the attention, much like we're doing with, you can see we're doing with a lot of these parcels today, such as the West Campus of UMass and so forth is that this is now on the market, and again, we will see how it unfolds, but I want to express that, the town's role often in these things is to increase awareness, and in any way that we can facilitate something that works to everyone's benefit, i.e. the neighborhood, you got immediate abutters, you've got the church. When the church does convey a property like this, as you can imagine, they have restrictions that would go with the deed as well, obviously they would not want anything to take place on the property that would be incompatible with their.
Like a strip club.
Right, exactly, their beliefs and tenets. So, just again, this is more just an FYI awareness issue, and again, it will be discussed tomorrow evening at the Vinyl Square Master Plan Committee to see if there's any interest.
What is the zoning right now?
Right now, it's zoned residential.
Have they got enough frontage that they could build?
Yes, because there's paper streets that go there, Bob. If you come in by way of John Street to a paper street. Also, the church if you also look at the map, the church also owns 20-65-2 and 20-50-15. So the church does have, they also own 1450-1 way up at the front at the corner of Highland and Middlesex, which is where the lawn is. So you can see they own and they basically determined that it's not part of their future use, and also they're seeking the revenue from the disposition of the property towards some of their capital projects. So because the other question is, why now? Why, after years of owning this property, would they in the Archdiocese look to sell this? And that was the explanation that we were provided. The other thing to make you aware of is, by tax possession, the town owns, if you look at Tobin Avenue where it bends, 20-50-42, the town of Chelmsford has that parcel as a tax possession. You see where Tobin Avenue bends?
Would that give you access?
That would also give you access to the
yeah.
property.
Yeah.
And then obviously we own 20-50-25, which is the Highland school parcel. So I just, again, wanted the board and the community to be aware. So sometimes people say, we didn't realize, or we weren't aware, or why didn't somebody say something? So again, we just wanted you to be aware of that. And the second one, which is a little more interesting, and I sent you an email on this, is that the town of Carlisle had a public hearing within the last 2 weeks regarding the need for a public safety communications tower. And the site that's under consideration is at the Chelmsford Town line at Proctor Road. The town of Carlisle owns a half-acre parcel. Proctor Road goes into Chelmsford into Carlisle. It's the same name. And as it ends there in Carlisle, the town owns a half-acre parcel, and they're currently examining a 110-foot telecommunications tower, not for their public safety needs. Right. This is not a submission by a wireless company, but this is basically a public communication needs. They reached out to us to see if we would have any such need for such a tower. So this information is now being reviewed by the police chief, fire chief, Chief Spinney, Chief Ryan, to see if it anyway would fit into our needs going forward. I think what you will see, even if it isn't this site, one is, we want to make people aware of this, because when they had the meeting in Carlisle, there were no Chelmsford residents in attendance. I don't know what notification they may have given or may not have given, but I suspect that particularly this time of the year, if you're at some of the end roads there at the town line, whether it's Cliffside on the other side, or even Proctor Road, or maybe even Zeus Drive at the end, you may have some visibility for both sides.
Is
And
Proctor down there too? Is Proctor all the way down?
That's ways.
Yeah, it's a little bit away. So again, we want to make people aware of it. What I did hear back from Chief Ryan and Chief Spinney is what this may be part of, and this is like a $2 million project in your community for communication needs. And what they're looking for is basically meeting today's needs, and it's probably a microwave technology type of component. And it may be something that's in Chelmsford's future as well, because what's happening is, we're seeing this in some other communities, the old days of dispatch through the landlines, and that sort of is fading in the past, and it's more with advanced technology.
Oh, yeah, IP.
Exactly. And fiber cables and microwave transmission. So again, not looking for any action. That's why it's not here for a vote or listed on the agenda, but again, make people aware, so that again, people can follow it, and also be aware that if something comes up, they can't say, geez, we didn't know that somebody's considering putting a tower right at the town line.
Maybe we could take the antenna off the water tower in
Right.
Lock Road.
Right. And I don't know, again, I'm not sure.
I think
Are there any
Mr. Harkin
Chelmsford
would be
residences
upset with that,
nearby?
losing that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right at the town line. Yeah, you're right, a short distance from a few hundred yards from the
So
town line.
You're only
this
6 or
different?
8 feet from the town line, aren't
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
So is this different than the motion that was brought forward to put a cell tower up at Roberts Field? Again,
Oh,
there were
yeah.
residents,
Yeah,
because
this
this
is-
is another town.
But it's also a different area,
Any
too.
way to leverage ourselves against that?
Yeah, I don't know, but the thing that struck me was why, again, if you're gonna put a 110-foot tower in the sky, why wouldn't they solicit a wireless company? Because if anyone who's driven through Carlisle knows that wireless communications is a challenge. But again, I'm not gonna involve myself in the affairs of that community, but.
That's a high point.
Yeah, but this is not, I'm not related, I'm not aware, Glenn, to your specific question, that this has anything to do with the T-Mobile needs or others. I suspect that they're notifying us, because I imagine if we were to use it, they would want some compensation for our involvement on the tower. So I just wanted you to be aware that this potential is out there, it's public record,
What kind of cost, any idea what kind of cost is associated with putting something like this up?
Well, yeah, it was close to $1 million.
For a town like
For a town like
Carlisle,
Carlisle.
that's a lot of money.
Well,
I don't know, it just sounds like there's something.
Carlisle has a lot of money, though. They have a tremendous amount of money, but they all there's a volunteer
fire department.
and,
But anyway, it's more just information status to let people know that there's something being contemplated at our boundaries. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman, to do my report this evening.
appointments?
Yeah, I have two matters for your appointment consideration this evening. The first one is for the UMass Lowell West Campus Planning Committee. Since our meeting, I've learned that the Planning Board has nominated George Zaroulis, the Housing Advisory Board nominated John Edward, and the
Chelmsford?
North Chelmsford Vinyl Square Master Plan Committee nominated Dr. Crane to serve on the committee. So that gives you the three. The fourth one would be a member of this board. And then I bring in before you three citizen residents, all of which are in the immediate vicinity to the property. The names, as in your packet and which is online, is Helen Blasioli of 19 Augusta Way. She's been on the Board of Trustees at Meadowwood for 15 years. And obviously, there would be a good representation of that side of the site. The next one is Linda Gervais of 217 Princeton Street. She's been in the butter on the Augusta entrance side of the property. And they've been here 31 years. Again, it's a third generation for the property. And then the final one would be Angela Serra, who's over by the main entrance over at 260 Princeton Street. And they've lived there since 1996, and this is a younger family, has 4 children in the schools, 2 in college, 2 in Chelmsford High School and McCarthy Middle School. And obviously, they could represent so basically we sort of have triangulated the parcel with 3 newcomers to active government in Chelmsford, which I think would blend with the 4 experience, or to be fourth named here, obviously, but the 3 others who are experienced and likely fourth experience from this board. And I also think it brings good diversity. It also brings diversity of gender, which helps, and also diversity of experience living in the community. So the goal is to create a visioning process in terms of get input, hold public hearings to see what are the community's thoughts in terms of vision as to what should take place on that site, and also understand the interest of the neighbors and the region, because as we know, there is momentum moving now to have some legislation enacted by the end of this legislative session in July, which is probably looking towards some type of disposition by the end of this calendar year. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Those are the 3 candidates that I bring for your consideration this evening.
I have a question.
Sure.
We haven't appointed ours.
No.
Is it on any agenda, or?
We're gonna do it right now.
Right, I think we spoke about this when I brought the committee for consideration, that this board would need to submit a person to the committee.
A member of this board.
Yes. Yes.
Well, we have 3 members who live in North Chelmsford. We have over saturation. But I would nominate George Dixon, since he's been here since Columbus arrived, or
Before.
and certainly knows the area well and knows the people there, and I think would be ecumenical in working with them and coming up with a viable plan.
I'll second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You get the job.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So, I'll make a motion on the town manager's appointments to the UMass Lowell West Campus Planning Committee of Helen Blasioli, Linda Gervais, and Angela Serra, and also affirm the appointments of Georgia Harulis from the Planning Board, John Edward from the Housing Advisory Board, Dr. Crane from the North Chelmsford Village Master Plan Committee, and George Dixon from the Board of Selectmen.
A question? Why does it say an animal inspector on it?
That's the next appointment.
It's a different topic.
It's a different topic. Unless we're going to make a big dog park, but I don't think that's in the plans.
Or ice cream. I'll second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Now we go to
Thank
the
you, Mr. Chairman.
inspector.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. By Massachusetts laws and the Department of Agricultural Resources, the term for inspector of animals runs from May 1st to April 30th. So this is why this is on the agenda this evening, and they require our submission of our candidate nomination by April 1st for the subsequent year. So many of you have been on the board for some years, you know this is sort of comes up at this time. And once again, we would ask you for your continued service of Eric Merrill to serve as the Town of Chelmsford's Inspector of Animals for the period of May 1st, 2017 to April 30th, 2018.
Gonna make a motion?
I will make a motion that we approve the town manager's appointment of Eric Merrill for the Inspector of Animals for a term expiring April 30th, 2018.
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members.
Meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion that we approve the regular meeting minutes for January 9th, 2017 as presented.
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll make a motion that we approve the tri-board meeting minutes for January 23rd, 2017 as presented.
I'll second.
Discussion? I abstain. I don't think I was at that meeting.
That's right, you were not.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
401, Vivian, and Alan. Okay. Selectmen liaison reports and referrals. Bob, you want to take your...
Can I do last?
The last?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
I attended the Finance Committee's meeting earlier this week where they voted their feelings toward the various warrants in town. They didn't do all of them. There were 5 or 6 that there were still some things to go on. But in general, they voted affirmative on everything, except for the special allowance for the police chief to bring forward a request to reduce an area to 20 miles an hour. That one they voted completely against. But otherwise, they were in favor of most of the ones. Again, there are, I think, 5 left, including the school committees, because there was nothing there as yet. But otherwise, they were in favor of everything.
Did Chief Spinney, he was for that in certain areas, right?
Yeah, he'll be presenting at town meeting, yes.
I mean, it makes a little bit of sense in certain areas at certain times to reduce the speed, but there's a lot of kids that, whatever. Maybe he stops some
Yeah, but this
cut-throughs too.
says if there is a sign there, that sign would take over. Like Turnpike Road is 30 miles an hour, right?
Yeah.
And I think the only one that wasn't unanimous was the changing of the speed limit overall to 25 miles an hour on unmarked streets. That was, there was only one dissenting vote on that.
Yeah, okay. So
I want to get Turnpike Road up to 35. 'Cause It's like,
Nothing, you're already going 50 over the
it's like plucking fish out of a barrel. The cruiser sits up there. It's very easy to do 35. Anyway.
Thank you.
Okay, just have a few congratulations that I'd like to express. Last Saturday night, several of us were at the Hall of Fame dinner, the Alumni Association Hall of Fame dinner, so congratulations to the 9 new inductees to that organization, and they all did a great job with their speeches this year. I mean,
5 minutes.
5 minutes, they stuck to it, and it was a good program, kept it moving along, it was really good. And also want to congratulate the latest Eagle Scouts in town. We've had 4 in the past 2 weeks, Charles Clark, Peter Cassells, Joshua DePasacreta, and Benjamin Rosano. So congratulations to those young men for their great work for the town and for making that achievement. Thanks.
You want to go? What do you want me to go? Go ahead.
I don't have anything.
You don't have anything? All right, I'll just want to remind everybody that to get out and vote on April 4th. Vote early, vote often. And then the absentee can be done up until...
Noontime on Monday, yeah.
On Monday, okay. So let's hope that we get a good turnout this year. And that's it. Thank you. Bob?
Yeah, I wasn't planning on speaking tonight until my opponent came in and asked if he could be heard. So my name's Bob Joyce. I have sat on this board for a total of 6 years. 3 back in 1993, 94, and 95, and the past 3 years as well. And I'm running for Selectmen again because I don't feel that all my goals were achieved, and particularly in the area of tax relief. Now, whenever anybody runs against an incumbent, they always talk about they're going to have tax relief, but the truth of the matter is we have very little control over taxes. Paul does his budget, he bills his 2.5% in, and then it goes to gets allocated to the assessors, I assume, and then we go to town meeting and we pass all the things that are needed for the town and town meeting. During the past 3 years, I have tried on several occasions to get funds sent back to the levy, and one ended in the town meeting refusing it, so there isn't too much control there, and the others were kind of in place, but the finance committee decided that they wanted to do it another way when we did the DPW this past year when we appropriated money for it. So what my goal is to try to make Chelmsford as affordable as possible, and that's why I vote against things like the capital budget every year, right, just about since I've been in town meeting. And I think we can do it in small pieces. Maybe a way to build schools is to have a school stabilization fund. And instead of spending $3.3 million in capital, we spend $2.3 million, and we take the other million and put it into another account for schools for the future. But we could also say that for Oprah as well. Oprah? OPEB.
Oprah's got plenty of money.
Oprah's got plenty of money. She could come in and buy and sell us.
You might even lend us some.
But I do want to continue in this position, and I feel that I have the best background to do that. So I'd appreciate your vote on April 4th, on Election Day, and thank you very much.
Okay. We want to adjourn for...
we got a scheduled meeting. I need to know when, just to confirm, the election is April 4th, the Tuesday.
Right.
We need a reorganization meeting. Typically, I'm expecting, but again, I need you to decide. Would you want to do it the Wednesday evening at 6 o'clock? And then generally that's the chairman's dinner.
When is Honoria going?
She's prepared to go Wednesday at 6, if that's the board's preference.
My vote is for Wednesday. How about yours, Pat?
Sounds good.
Wednesdays.
Wednesday, the 5th?
Okay.
Wednesday, April 5th at 6 PM?
Yeah.
6 PM.
Okay.
And then dinner after, or whatever.
We don't need to put that on the agenda.
Oh, no, I'll have to.
I understand, but
I'll
I'm
have to
just
get a
bringing it
hat
up.
and stand in Central Square and see if I can raise the money.
Good idea. Okay,
Okay,
so.
all right, so the reorganization meeting, Wednesday, April 5th.
Pat has to too.
And then the next regular meeting would be the following Monday, the 10th.
10th is the first,
Yeah, that'll be the next Monday
meeting of the
afterwards.
next board.
And then from there, the next Monday, the 17th, is Patriots Day, and then the following Monday is start of town meeting,
Right.
which will probably run 3 sessions, so we'll have obviously, much like the Finance Committee, as Glenn described the other evening, they went to 10 after 11. I will hope that we don't endeavor to go to 10 after 11 on the 10th, but we will have to make recommendations, the board's recommendations on warrant articles.
Okay.
Press question.
Thank you. Press questions.
First questions? You're all set. Nothing excited you tonight?
Got too much to work with.
Oh, okay.
I don't-
Well, we need a motion to adjourn to executive session, not to return.
Yep, I'll make a motion that we adjourn to executive session for the purposes of strategy with respect to collective bargaining, specifically with the Chelmsford Firefighters Union, and also for consideration of the acquisition of real property, specifically the UMass Lower West Campus at 255 Princeton Street, not to return to open session.
Aye.
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 Okay. Thank you. Good evening. Thank you very much.